Something often brought up is expansion of the WBC. They already expanded once, from 16 to 20 teams, and I don't hear anyone complaining about it. More teams, more games, more excitement, right? So why not just double the number of teams? Make it 40. Sound good? Nah, I didn't think so. Any talk of WBC expansion is to 24, maybe 28 teams. If there were 40 teams, it would create some really uneven matchups. They'd have to implement a first-inning mercy rule. But what if they didn't expand beyond 20 and instead held a separate tournament for the next 20, a B-Tier WBC, like they do in Europe, and the top 4, or 6, or 8, or whatever could advance to the qualifier and compete with the bottom 4 of the last WBC to try and earn a promotion to the big tournament. One of the biggest disappointments for the upcoming WBC is that the number of teams in the qualifiers was reduced, and there was no qualifying for the qualifiers, so a lot of countries never had the chance to prove themselves. This would be a way to include more countries, give more teams a chance. When would we have this tournament? I'd say a year and a half before the WBC, half a year before the qualifiers. That'd be in the fall, right after the minor league season ends. The star players in a tournament like this would be the minor league players. Very important that they're available to play. Where would it be? Well, since more teams in this tier would come from Europe than anywhere else, that'd be the best place. The final round would probably be in Regensburg, Germany. They got a good stadium there that's been used for WBC qualifiers in the past. Several other stadiums in Germany could be used for pool play. That's if you want to have the whole tournament in one country. You could also do it WBC style and have 4 pools in 4 different countries, and that's what I tried to do here. And that brings us to the most important question: what would the 20 teams be? To start, we gotta include the 4 countries that participated in the last qualifier but didn't make it: Spain, South Africa, Germany, and China. Then you gotta have the 4 that got snubbed, the ones that were in the qualifiers 3 years ago but didn't get invited back this time: Argentina, Pakistan, New Zealand, and France. That's 8. Now we need 12 more. A good place to look is the WBSC rankings, though I don't totally go by the rankings. They're based on the accomplishments of all age groups for a country, and we're trying to organize a senior national tournament here. But anyway, let's take a look. In the top 24, the only countries not already in the WBC are Germany, China, France, and Spain, which I've already mentioned would be included in this tournament. So we'll start with number 25, the Philippines. They're definitely in. Southeast Asia's strongest, a previous WBC qualifier participant. That makes 9 teams. Next is Curacao, but they compete with the Kingdom of the Netherlands. That may change one day, but for now they're still part of the Dutch team. Belgium and Austria, a couple of the better teams in Europe, definitely in the world's top 40, though both of them underachieved at the last European Championship. That's 10 and 11. And 12, Hong Kong, consistently ranked around number 30, home of former MLB pitcher Austin Bryce. He was still pitching in AAA last year. This would be an interesting addition. Croatia, one of the stronger teams in Europe and only getting better lately. That makes 13. South Africa, already mentioned before, they're in. Sweden, they made some noise at the last European Championship with their upset of Italy. That's 14. Argentina, as I've said, is in. Thailand, a one-time WBC qualifier participant, will have to be included. That's 15. Ukraine, what an interesting addition that would be. They still compete, still hold a spot in the top 40, but I don't think they'd be competitive in a tournament like this, so I'm not including them here. Guam, a U.S. territory where baseball thrives. Sean Reed Foley would be eligible to pitch for them. That's 16. Only 4 more spots. Pakistan is in, as mentioned before. Russia is not. They would be, but, only got room for 1 more European country, and we see 4 in a row right there. Hungary, Switzerland, Slovakia, and Lithuania. Hungary is the highest ranking, but as far as senior national team achievement, I'd go with Switzerland. They seem to be the strongest out of those 4. They also got a good young pitcher, 20-year-old Cincinnati Reds prospect Dominik Scheffler. And yes, Slovakia's got AAA pitcher Adam Mako. Lithuania's got former MLB pitcher Dovydas Neverauskas, he's still active. Every country's got an individual to brag about, but the Swiss have the best team out of the 4. That's 18. Peru is next in the rankings after that, but skip down one and you've got a better choice. U.S. Virgin Islands. They could have Jarrell Cotton, who pitched in MLB just a few years ago. Jabari Blash and Akil Morris also played in MLB not too long ago. All 3 of them were born in USVI. Morris played in the last WBC for Great Britain. You might be thinking, why is USVI here but not Curacao? Well, Curacao doesn't compete in the Olympics either. USVI does. Curaçao's status as a constituent country of the Kingdom of the Netherlands makes it difficult to compete on their own. For the Virgin Islands, the only thing stopping them from competing on their own is not being able to field a team good enough for the WBC qualifiers. But in this situation we're dreaming up here, they'd definitely be good enough. Next one down in the rankings is Palestine. That sure would be interesting, but for competition's sake, it's not the best choice. The Bahamas, though, they could put together a great team. In fact, they may be trying to do that here pretty soon, even without any WBC expansion. They've got an MLB All-Star in Jazz Chisholm. They've always got between 5 and 10 players in the minors. This would be one of the tournament's strongest teams. They're good enough for the WBC qualifiers right now, maybe good enough for the main tournament. The reason they're ranked so low here is because Bahamian players join Great Britain for the big tournaments. Which means if Bahamas compete independently, Britain's in trouble. That's 19, only one to go. New Zealand is next in the rankings. They're in, as I said before, already counted them. Tied with New Zealand in the rankings, and the last team I'd add to the field in this tournament is Uganda. They're not ranked high because, due to a lack of funding, their youth teams can't get out to international tournaments as much. But as far as fully grown talent, they got enough to put together a team that would really belong here. 4 in the minors, 2 more that were recently in the minors, 4 playing independent ball in Japan, 3 in a U.S. college, the second strongest country in Africa. Okay, so now we got 20 teams. Here's how I'd group them and what I think would happen. Pool A, hosted in Germany. They'd be joined by South Africa, Austria, Croatia, and Switzerland. No doubt Germany would be the favorites here, and South Africa would be a strong second. Can't see it going any other way. The only excitement really would be seeing who gets relegated out of the other 3. Pool B, another Europe-Africa pool. I guess this would be held in Spain, if they have somewhere to hold the games. Spain, France, Belgium, Sweden, and Uganda. A more competitive group than Pool A. Spain, the clear favorite, but after that, anyone's got a chance. Uganda's got more talent than Belgium and Sweden, but it's not sure if they'd play better as a team. Any one of those 3 could upset France, especially Uganda, if everything's going right for them. But I'd still go with France in this one. They can use their Caribbean connection to get some players with experience in the MLB system. And a new wave of young, homegrown French players is coming up, making this country even stronger. Pool C, the Asian pool. China, Pakistan, Philippines, Hong Kong, and Thailand. 4 out of those 5 have participated in WBC qualifiers before. China had a poor showing at this year's WBC qualifier, one they'd like to forget. But don't forget about their 4th place finishes at the Asian Games and the Under-23 World Cup. And they led the Czech Republic after 8 innings at the last WBC. All this in the last couple years. In a pool like this, I'd pick the Chinese to win it. And they'd be playing at home. Probably use the same venue they used for the Asian Games and the Under-23 World Cup. I'm sure Hong Kong and Thailand would be fighting to avoid relegation. They're the weak ones in this group. Pakistan and Philippines would make for an exciting matchup. South Asia's number 1 team versus Southeast Asia's number 1 team. Pakistan's made a lot of progress lately, so I'll pick them. But it depends on what kind of talent the Philippines can find in its diaspora. Anyway, for now, Pakistan. Pool D, from across the Pacific to the Americas. Argentina, New Zealand, Bahamas, Virgin Islands, and Guam. Bahamas might be able to host it. They've got a new stadium, but I'm not sure if it's up to WBSC standards. If not, they'd probably have the teams meet in Florida. Guam would be the weakling here. I'd pick them for relegation. Virgin Islands has some of the best top talent, but I'd have my doubts as to how an entire team of Virgin Island players would perform. Argentina and New Zealand would meet in a rematch from the WBC qualifiers 3 years ago. Argentina surprised everyone by beating them then. But if they were to meet again, I'd pick New Zealand. And the number 1 team in this pool, the Bahamas. So here are the quarterfinal matchups. As you can probably guess, Germany beats France, Spain beats South Africa. We've seen both happen recently, no reason they change now. Both games take place in Germany. China versus New Zealand, these two would match up well. I can see New Zealand pulling it off, but I'll say China in this one. Bahamas versus Pakistan, Bahamas easily. But where do these 2 games take place? China or Bahamas, Florida? A couple teams would have to fly halfway around the world just for this one game. Maybe it wouldn't work. Might be best if all quarterfinal games are in Germany. Anyway, semifinals. Germany versus China. We saw what happened when these two met back in March, so it's an easy pick. Germany wins. Spain versus Bahamas. That would be a good one. Spain has been unable to reach the top 2 in the qualifiers, so let's assume that carries over to this tournament. Bahamas for the win. Championship game. Germany versus Bahamas. Max Kepler versus Jazz Chisholm, if they're available. Bahamas is a bit exhausted after a 10-inning win over Spain the day before. Germany coasted to an easy win over China, and they saved their best pitchers for this game. And they're playing at home. So, Germany wins. But Germany and Bahamas both move on to the qualifiers and meet the 4 last-place teams from the last WBC. Spain and China probably would too. Maybe the four teams that lost in the quarterfinals, France, South Africa, New Zealand, and Pakistan, could play for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th place, with numbers 5 and 6 reaching the qualifier. Or all the quarterfinalists advance. So many ways you can do it. How would you do it? Any other countries, different format, locations? Also, do you think this would be a good idea? Comment down below. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya!